The battle against lust is one of the most dangerous yet hidden struggles among God's chosen ones. Many assume that being anointed or spiritually gifted makes a person immune to temptation, but the Bible tells a different story. Some of the greatest biblical figures, kings, prophets, and judges, fell into the trap of lust. But why? Why did those set apart for God's work secretly struggle with this powerful force? In this deep dive, we'll explore 5 biblical reasons why chosen ones face this hidden battle, backed by the real stories of Samson, David, Solomon, Joseph, and others who walked this path before us. Samson was chosen by God before birth to be a deliverer of Israel. He possessed superhuman strength, granted by God, to defeat Israel's enemies. Yet, despite his anointing, he had a fatal weakness: lust. Samson's downfall didn't come from battle or war. It came from his entanglement with Delilah. She was used by the enemy to exploit his weakness, ultimately leading to his capture, blindness, and humiliation. The enemy knows that if he can corrupt a chosen one, he can derail their divine purpose. Satan doesn't attack the weak as much as he does the strong, because the strong are a threat to his kingdom. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. If you are called by God, expect the enemy to place strategic traps in your path, and often lust is one of his most effective weapons. King David was described as a man after God's own heart. 1 Samuel 13:14. He was a mighty warrior, a skilled musician, and a righteous king. But even David, a man deeply devoted to God, fell into lust's trap. One night, he saw Bathsheba bathing and desired her. Instead of resisting, he acted on his impulse, committing adultery and later murdering her husband, Uriah, to cover up his sin. When people rise to power, they often feel entitled to their desires. Power gives access to things that were previously out of reach, increasing opportunities for sin. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 11:2. Unlike others who fell into lust, Joseph resisted temptation. He was sold into slavery and ended up in Potiphar's house. His master's wife lusted after him and tried to seduce him repeatedly. Joseph was young, strong, and completely alone in a foreign land. No one would have known if he gave in, yet he still chose to flee. Isolation weakens defenses. Without spiritual community, it's easier to rationalize sin. Lust thrives in secrecy. When no one is watching, it's easier to compromise. Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. 1 Corinthians 6:18. If Joseph had entertained temptation, he could have lost his destiny. Chosen ones must set boundaries and avoid compromising situations. Solomon, the wisest man in history, had divine wisdom and unparalleled wealth. Yet, his greatest weakness was his desire for women. Despite writing proverbs about wisdom, discipline, and self-control, he failed to follow his own advice. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines, many of whom worshipped foreign gods. These relationships led him into idolatry, and as a result, God tore the kingdom from his descendants. Lust creates addiction. The more it is fed, the stronger it grows. Even those with wisdom and spiritual insight can be blinded by uncontrolled desires. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7.